So there's this thing that happens almost every morning at the Starbucks near where I live. You've probably seen it too, or maybe you've been part of it without really thinking about it. There's this guy, probably mid-30s, wearing what looks like a really nice watch, maybe a Rolex or something similar. And he pulls up in a Tesla. Clean car, clean look, everything about him screams success, you know? He walks in, orders this elaborate drink, probably costs like $12, maybe $14, tips well, and then drives off. And for years, I used to see people like that and think, man, that person has it figured out. That's what success looks like. My name is Livermore, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others stay stuck in the same financial patterns for decades. And here's the thing that completely changed how I see situations like that Starbucks line. There's a 75% chance, like statistically speaking, that the guy in the Tesla with a Rolex has less than $15,000 in his bank account. Maybe way less. Maybe he's actually closer to being broke than being wealthy. And honestly, that statistic haunts me. Because it means most of what we think of as rich is actually just an incredibly convincing performance. It's theater. It's people spending every dollar they make, and often dollars they don't even have yet, to look like they're winning a game they're actually losing. And I think that matters because, we're all playing this game whether we realize it or not. We're all making decisions every single day based on what we think wealth looks like, what we think success is supposed to feel like. And if we're chasing the wrong thing, if we're building our entire financial life around looking successful instead of actually being secure, then we're basically volunteering to stay stressed, stay broke, and stay stuck forever. So what I want to do today is pull apart this whole illusion, this fake rich trap that's keeping so many people from actually building real wealth. We're going to talk about why our brains are basically wired to fall for this, why corporations spend billions of dollars to keep us confused about what wealth actually means, and most importantly, how to opt out of the whole game entirely. Because here's the thing, real wealth isn't loud. It doesn't need to be seen. And the moment you understand that difference, like really understand it, everything changes. Your stress level drops, your bank account starts growing, and weirdly enough, you stop caring what people think about your car. Let's get into it. All right, so let's start with the math, because the math is where this whole illusion really falls apart. Let's say there's a family. Nice family, hardworking people, they've got decent jobs. Combined household income is maybe $120,000 a year, which depending on where you live sounds pretty comfortable, right? Upper middle class, doing well, no major complaints. In this family, they've got a house. It's a nice house, $400,000, which these days is honestly kind of modest depending on the market. Their mortgage payment with property taxes and insurance is about $3,000 a month. Okay, not cheap, but manageable. Then they've got 2 cars, both new or almost new because, they need reliable transportation. And one of them is a pretty nice SUV because they've got kids. Car payments total maybe $1,100 a month between the 2 vehicles. Add in insurance, gas, maintenance, let's call it another $300 a month. So we're at, $4,300 a month just on housing and transportation? Now let's keep going. Groceries for a family of 4, maybe $800 to $1,000. Utilities, internet, phone bills, another $500. Health insurance premiums if their employer doesn't cover everything, maybe another $400. We haven't even gotten to the kids' activities, eating out occasionally, clothes, random household stuff, and we're already at roughly $6,500 a month in pretty basic expenses. That's $78,000 a year. So our $120,000 household, after taxes, and let's be honest, taxes are taking a big chunk, they're probably bringing home around $85,000 to $90,000. Subtract that $78,000 in fixed and semi-fixed expenses, and suddenly this successful family has about $1,000 a month, maybe less, for literally everything else. Savings, retirement, emergencies, anything fun, everything. Do you see what just happened? This family that looks successful from the outside, nice house, nice cars, kids and activities, everything looks fine, is actually one broken transmission away from a financial crisis. They're living in what I call financial quicksand. They look stable on the surface, but underneath, there's basically no foundation. One unexpected expense, one job loss, one medical emergency, and the whole thing collapses. And here's the really messed up part. They're not even enjoying it that much. Because when you're spending 60% of your income on your house and your cars, way above that 30% safety threshold financial advisors talk about, you're not living. You're performing. You're maintaining. You're a prisoner to the image you've created, and you can't escape, because selling the house or the cars feels like admitting failure. So you just keep going. Keep working. Keep stressed.
Keep telling yourself it's fine because, hey, at least you look successful. That's the anatomy of financial quicksand. It looks solid, it feels like progress, but it's slowly pulling you down. And the more you struggle to maintain the image, the deeper you sink.
Okay, so why do we do this to ourselves? Like, if it's so obviously a trap, why do smart, capable, hardworking people keep falling into it? The answer is honestly kind of depressing, but also weirdly liberating once you understand it. Your brain is basically programmed to make terrible financial decisions in modern society. Not because you're dumb or weak, but because the way our brains evaluate success is fundamentally incompatible with building wealth in a consumer economy. There's this concept in psychology called social comparison theory, and basically it says that humans don't have an objective measure of success. We can't just look at our lives in isolation and decide if we're doing well. Instead, we're constantly, automatically, unconsciously comparing ourselves to the people around us. That's how we determine if we're winning or losing at life. And it happens so fast, so automatically, that we don't even realize we're doing it. So here's what happens. You go to a work event, and you see your colleague pull up in a brand new BMW. And your brain immediately does this calculation. It doesn't ask if they can afford it. It doesn't consider their financial situation. It just registers. They have something I don't have. Therefore, they are ahead of me. Therefore, I am falling behind. Or you're scrolling Instagram and you see someone from high school posting from a luxury resort in Bali, and even though you know that Instagram is basically a highlight reel, even though you know they might have put the whole trip on a credit card they can't afford, your brain still registers it as, they are experiencing something I'm not. I'm missing out. I need to catch up. This is called the reference group effect, and it's incredibly powerful. Basically, your reference group, the people you compare yourself to, becomes your baseline for what's normal. If your friends are leasing luxury cars, suddenly a luxury car doesn't feel extravagant anymore. It feels like the baseline. If your coworkers are buying expensive houses in trendy neighborhoods, suddenly your perfectly fine apartment feels inadequate. And corporations know this. They absolutely know this. They've spent billions of dollars studying human psychology, and they specifically target people who are on the edge, people who've worked hard, who've gotten some success, who are earning decent money but aren't wealthy yet. Because those people are desperate to signal that they've made it. They're desperate to prove, mostly to themselves, that all the hard work paid off. So the corporations sell them the symbols. The watch that says I'm successful, the car that says I'm important, the house in the right neighborhood that says I belong here. And what they're really selling is relief from the anxiety of comparison. They're selling a temporary feeling of being enough. But here's the trap. It only works if other people don't have it yet. The moment everyone in your reference group has a luxury car, it stops being a symbol of success and becomes the new baseline. Which means you need the next thing. The bigger house, the nicer vacation, the more expensive watch. It never ends. You're basically paying a subscription fee, what I call the conformity tax, to feel like you're keeping up, and the price just keeps increasing. And the really cruel part? The actually wealthy people aren't playing this game at all. They already opted out. They're not trying to prove anything.
This is where we need to talk about H.E.N.R.Ys, which is one of my favorite acronyms in personal finance because it's so perfectly descriptive. H.E.N.R.Y stands for High Earner, Not Rich Yet. These are people making anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000 a year, or even more, who should be building serious wealth but somehow aren't. They're living paycheck to paycheck despite making six figures. They've got the income, they've got the degrees, they've got the job titles, but they have no net worth. Or worse, they've got negative net worth because of all the debt they've taken on to maintain the lifestyle they think matches their income level. And I see this constantly. Like, I know people who make $200,000 a year who are more financially stressed than people making $60,000. And it makes no logical sense until you understand what's happening. They've trapped themselves in a lifestyle that requires all $200,000 just to maintain. The bigger house, the nicer cars, the private schools, the club memberships, the vacations that match what everyone else in their peer group is doing. They've scaled their spending to match or exceed their income, and now they're stuck. They can't downgrade without feeling like failures. They can't admit that they're stressed because they're supposed to be successful. So they just keep going, keep earning, keep spending, and they tell themselves that someday, eventually, they'll start saving. They'll build wealth next year, after this next expense, after things calm down. But things never calm down, because they've built a life that requires constant high income just to sustain. Now let's contrast that with what's called stealth wealth. Stealth wealth is the opposite of the H.E.N.R.Y trap. These are people who are actually wealthy, like genuinely financially secure, probably millionaires or on their way there, but you'd never know it by looking at them. They're driving a 10-year-old Toyota Camry. They're living in a nice but modest house that they bought 20 years ago and paid off. They're wearing normal clothes, eating at normal restaurants, and basically blending into everyday middle-class life. But behind the scenes, they've got a 7-figure investment portfolio. They've got rental properties. They've got more passive income than most people make in a year from their jobs. And here's the key philosophical difference. Henrys use money to buy symbols that impress other people. They're purchasing external validation. They're trying to look successful. Stealth wealth people use money to buy freedom. They're purchasing time, security, and options. They don't care if you're impressed by their car because they're not trying to prove anything to you. They're trying to build a life where they don't have to worry about money, where they can make decisions based on what they actually want to do rather than what they have to do to pay the bills. One group is playing for the audience. The other group already left the theater. And honestly, once you see this distinction, you can't unsee it. You start noticing that the people posting constantly about their luxury lifestyle are usually the ones with the least actual security. And the people who never mention money, who live quietly and modestly, are often the ones who could retire tomorrow if they wanted to. Real wealth whispers. Fake wealth shouts. All right, let's talk about opportunity costs because this is where the numbers get really painful if you're currently in the fake rich trap. Opportunity cost is basically what you're giving up when you choose one thing over another. Every dollar you spend on something is a dollar you're not investing, not saving, not using to build actual wealth. And when you're spending money to maintain an image, to feed your ego, the opportunity cost is absolutely massive. Let's use a car payment as an example, because cars are one of the biggest wealth destroyers out there. Let's say you've got an $800 a month car payment for a nice vehicle that makes you feel successful. That's a real number. Lots of people are paying that or more for SUVs and trucks right now. Now, what if instead of spending that $800 a month on a depreciating asset, you invested it? Just threw it into a boring S&P 500 index fund and left it alone. Over 40 years, a typical working career, at an average annual return of about 10%, which is roughly what the stock market has historically returned, that $800 a month becomes approximately $4.7 million. I'm not exaggerating, that's the actual math. So your $800 car payment isn't just costing you $800 a month, it's costing you $4.7 million in future wealth. It's costing you the ability to retire early, to work part-time, to take a year off if you want to never worry about money again. Every single month, you're choosing the feeling of driving a nice car over nearly $5 million in financial freedom. And that's just one expense. Now add in the oversized house, the luxury vacations, the designer clothes, all the other stuff people buy to signal success. Each one of those is a piece of your future freedom that you're selling to feel good today, to impress people today, to avoid the discomfort of looking normal today. This is the opportunity cost of ego. Every status symbol you buy on credit, every luxury you can't actually afford, you're not just spending money, you're selling your future self. You're trading decades of potential freedom for temporary validation from people who honestly don't care about you that much anyway. And I know that sounds harsh, but I think it's important to be really clear about the trade we're making. Because nobody thinks about it this way. When you're signing up for that car payment, you're not thinking, I'm giving up millions of dollars and years of freedom for this. You're thinking, this is a nice car, and I deserve it, and I can afford the monthly payment. But those are two completely different calculations. And one of them is a lie we tell ourselves to feel better about a decision that's actively harming our future. Here's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I think the reason the fake rich trap is so powerful, so hard to escape, is because for a lot of people, their spending is tied directly to their identity. It's not really about the stuff, it's about who they believe they are, or who they're desperately trying to become. Like, think about it. If you've spent your whole life working toward success, if you grew up without much money, and you told yourself, someday I'm going to make it, someday I'm going to have nice things, someday I'm going to prove I'm not where I came from. Then when you finally start earning decent money, spending it on symbols of success isn't frivolous to you. It's validation. It's proof that you did it. It's the reward you promised yourself. And if someone comes along and says, actually, you should drive a cheaper car and live in a smaller house and stop spending money on things that make you feel successful, what they're really saying, at least what it feels like they're saying, is, you didn't actually make it. You're still not good enough. Go back to feeling poor. That's a hard message to accept. It's an identity crisis wrapped in financial advice. And I get it. I really do. There's something deeply human about wanting tangible proof that your hard work mattered, that you're different now, that you've transcended whatever circumstances you came from. Money is supposed to be the scoreboard. And if you're making money but not spending it on nice things, then what's even the point?
But here's the reframe that I think is actually really important. True success, real wealth, isn't about having nice things. It's about having options. It's about security. It's about not being afraid. If you're working a job you hate because you need the income to maintain your lifestyle, you're not successful. You're trapped. If you can't sleep at night because you're worried about money, you're not wealthy. You're stressed. If you're constantly comparing yourself to other people to figure out if you're doing okay, you're not winning. You're exhausting yourself. Real wealth is the millionaire in the 10-year-old car who could quit their job tomorrow and be fine. Real success is the person who doesn't need to prove anything because they're secure enough that external validation doesn't matter anymore. And getting there requires letting go of the identity wrapped up in stuff. It requires what I honestly think of as ego death. Accepting that looking normal, or even looking less successful than you actually are, is not just okay, it's strategic. It's the move that actually wealthy people make. Because here's the secret. Once you have real financial security, you stop caring what your car says about you. You stop needing the validation. The stuff stops mattering because you have something better. You have freedom.
Okay, so if you're sitting here thinking, oh God, this is me. I'm the person in the Tesla with $15,000 in the bank. I'm playing the fake rich game and I want out. What do you actually do? Let me give you the 3-step framework that I think actually works. Step 1, ego death, the hardest step. You have to accept, like genuinely accept, that you're going to look boring to other people for a while. Maybe a long while. You're going to drive a car that doesn't impress anyone. You're going to live in a house or apartment that's fine but not Instagram worthy. You're going to skip the trendy restaurants and the luxury vacations and all the stuff your peer group is doing. And people might judge you. They might think you're cheap or struggling or less successful than you actually are. And you have to be okay with that. You have to decide that their opinion of your car matters less than your future financial security. This is the hardest step because it's emotional, not mathematical. It's about identity and self-worth and all the messy psychological stuff. But until you can genuinely let go of needing external validation through your spending, you're going to stay trapped. Step 2. Define enough. This is maybe the most important question in personal finance, and almost nobody asks it. What is enough? If you don't have an answer to that question, you'll never win. Because there's always someone with a bigger house, a nicer car, a better vacation. If your goalpost is more than the people around me, then your goalpost moves every time your circumstances or your peer group changes. You're running a race with no finish line. But if you can define enough, if you can say, okay, financial security for me means X amount in investments, a paid-off house, and enough passive income to cover my basic expenses, then you have a target. You have something to work toward that isn't dependent on what other people are doing. And weirdly, once you hit enough, the anxiety goes away. Because you're not competing anymore. You're not comparing. You're just living your life with a foundation of security under you. So sit down and actually define it. What does financial security look like for you specifically? Write it down, make it concrete, and then build toward that instead of toward impressing people. Step 3. Stealth wealth automation. Here's the practical implementation. Automate your wealth building so you never see the money. Every time you get a raise, before you adjust your lifestyle, set up an automatic transfer that takes that raise and puts it directly into investments. Not a savings account where you'll be tempted to spend it. Into index funds, retirement accounts, investments that you don't touch. The goal is to prevent lifestyle inflation before it starts. Because here's what normally happens. You get a raise, you see more money in your checking account, you unconsciously adjust your spending to match, and you end up in the same financial position, but with slightly nicer stuff. Instead, make the raise invisible. Let your lifestyle stay at your previous income level and bank the difference. This is how stealth wealth actually gets built. Quietly, automatically, without drama or willpower or constant decision-making. And over time, something amazing happens. Your investment accounts start growing faster than your lifestyle expenses. You start building real wealth behind the scenes while looking completely normal on the surface. And eventually, you hit that point where your passive income exceeds your expenses, and you're done. You've won. You've opted out of the rat race entirely. So here's what I want you to take away from all of this, because I know it's been a lot, and some of it's probably uncomfortable if you're currently living in the fake rich zone. The most important thing to understand is this. Wealth and the appearance of wealth are not just different, they're often opposite. The people who look the richest are usually the most financially fragile, and the people who are actually building lasting wealth usually look completely unremarkable. That Starbucks line I mentioned at the beginning? The guy in the Tesla with the Rolex who probably has less than $15,000 in the bank? He's not an outlier. He's the norm. That's what chasing the appearance of success looks like in real life. It looks impressive for 30 seconds,
and then it's just stress and debt and golden handcuffs and a constant low-level anxiety about money that never goes away. But you don't have to play that game. You can choose, and it is a choice, even if it doesn't always feel like one, to build wealth quietly. To live below your means not because you're cheap or afraid, but because you're strategic. Because you understand that every dollar you don't spend on impressing strangers is a dollar working for your future freedom. And I'm not saying you have to live like a monk. I'm not saying you can never enjoy your money or buy nice things. What I'm saying is, build the foundation first. Get to the point where your investments are generating real income, where you have real security, where money is no longer a source of stress. And then, if you still want the nice car or the big house, go for it. But buy it with actual wealth, not with debt. Buy it because you can truly afford it, not because you're trying to prove something. Because here's the truth that took me way too long to understand. Nobody is thinking about your car as much as you think they are. Nobody is impressed by your house for more than about 5 minutes. The performance you're giving is mostly for an audience that isn't paying attention. But your future self? Your future self is paying attention. Your future self is the one who'll either thank you or resent you for the choices you're making right now. So maybe it's time to stop performing for strangers and start building for yourself. Build wealth quietly, live generously, and stop confusing looking rich with actually being free. Thanks for watching.